Good morning. Welcome to Mystery Book Club. We are discussing Lori Roy. Is it Lori Roy's the final episode today with our moderator, author Victoria Weisfeld. Vicki, why don't you take it away?
Oh, thank you. Um, I was interested in this book not only as a mystery thriller, but as a sort of commentary on a side of current American life that is kind of interesting and full of all kinds of pitfalls, I think, and that is our preoccupation with true crime stuff. Um, Obviously, true crime has a long history. I mean, we remember from the 50s the magazines Pulp, Pulp Crime, and those kind of magazines with the salacious covers. But lately, it seems like it's almost like voyeurism gone mad. And the critiques of some of the true crime reporting and podcasts and whatnot are that it's exploitative. It has the smarminess of sensationalizing crime for monetary gain. There's a loss of privacy for the people involved, and it's painful for can be painful for the survivors, and not only painful because their privacy is invaded and so forth, but it can be downright dangerous if a group of people get the notion in their head that this parent is responsible for that child's disappearance. There have been just notoriously bad cases of what has come of that. And the most recent example of unwanted help from the true crime community is the Nancy Guthrie's missing mom in Tucson. You probably read about the local YouTuber who found human remains and all over the papers. Yes, that they were human remains, but they're from maybe 750 to 1,000 years ago. I mean, they were historic remains. They were not Nancy Guthrie's remains. And the upshot of all this is that in 2019, the FBI reported that it's surveilling the true crime communities, the online communities of people, because they think that there are some people who participate in those communities who are linked to various domestic threats and so forth. They've been doing that already for uh, school shootings and so forth, but they've broadened it a little bit. And that kind of surveillance has its own problems and is not necessarily 100% a good thing. But I picked out three other novels that have involved true crime fandom that I think have been interesting. Denise Mina's book, Conviction, Paul Cleave's book, The Pain Tourist. That's really an interesting book. And Daniel Swerin Becker's Kill Show. And that is partly based on a real life television program that had to do with the death of a young, I think she was a college student in Maryland. So anyway, it's sort of like fiction following truth, you know. Truth, they always say truth is stranger than fiction, and that may be true in this case. I have some questions and discussion ideas about the setting of the book, the characters, and the plot. But first, I'd like to know what your overall reactions were. We know what Sally's were, but Patty and Peg, what did you think? Yay or nay? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I really enjoyed it, but like you, I went back trying to reread and I didn't get very far with that, so I'm a little slow on the details. Could you mention again those three books that you
Why
referred
don't I
to?
send them to, I'm happy to, but I can send them to Sally and she can
Okay,
email them out
okay,
to you, or I can email them to you directly. Yeah,
that's good.
it's really just the tip of the iceberg. I've read a lot of this stuff lately. Um, but before we get into specific literary topics, let's talk about beginnings and endings. Authors are always told to have a strong opening to their books because potential agents and publishers won't read the whole thing or even a few chapters to find out there's some there. You know, they want to know maybe even first page. So, what did you think of the opening, the scene where Beverly finds out that from Nora, that a man has taken Francie? Did this scene make you want to read more?
I thought that the kid was a little creepy. I I was more suspicious of the kid than anything. I mean, so yes, you want to read more because you want to know how that kid kind of fits in. Because again, in previous stories, there have been children who have been uh, the criminals, not the adults. So yeah, I wanted to read more. I thoroughly enjoyed the book.
Patty, did you like the opening?
Yes, I did, and I caught on to it right away. If I don't catch, it's like the publishers and things. If I can't get it in the first half of the first chapter, I just am lost. I have to really concentrate and go back to the what I just read. But this one I could keep reading, and I didn't want to put it down. But I thoroughly enjoyed the way it was told. You know how she was talking to her father. I and then it went to the different episodes. I like that. I really like that part.
All right, Sally, you're on the hook now.
Okay, so I have to say, I'm at the stage in life where any kind of violence, and especially towards children, really unsettles me. So when I realized that that's what this was about, I thought, oh, I approached it with dread. Okay.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and I have to say, unlike what Patty just said, I'm not a very fast reader. And I found this going from third, third person to the letter writing. I I sometimes maybe it is my attention. I don't have enough. I can't focus or something. But I would find we go from this third person account back to I think I'm going to have to put her downstairs. Uh, and we'd go to the Roxy. Here, chew on my shoe. Chew on the
Well,
shoe.
there was the stuff that happened in the past, and then there's stuff that's happening 22 years later, and that is in a couple of different forms.
So
One is the first person, sort of, as Patty said, the letter, whether these letters were ever sent, we don't know, but the sort of she's talking to her father, even though he's not there, and then there's just plain straight third person narrative. So it does switch back and forth. And that was
and
actually one of my questions,
that
whether that
made
was
me
confusing.
crazy because then when she'd say something like, and this is how I felt about you, and I'm going, who is she talking to? Or not even who is she talking to? It's like, where am I? I would find myself like, oh my God, I found it very confusing. Then I'd get it and I go, okay, yeah, I forgot she was if I put it down and picked it up the next day, I forgot that she was writing this as a letter to her father. And I have read books like where it was letter writing was the whole story, and it was done in a way that, there was no doubt in your mind who was speaking, what they were, and it revealed so much more. But I just found this, I found it I didn't like it. I didn't.
Well, the
That's all I
author
can
did
say.
not give you a lot of clues. I mean, a lot of times when you have a story that jumps around in time or voice and so forth, there's a lot of clues. I mean, you all read my thriller last month, and every scene is preceded by whose point of view it's in,
Exactly.
just to kind of help the reader along. I agree, she could have done more of that. Um, the author signals right away that there's something wrong with Franny. we know that because she starts saying she has these limitations and so forth. And over the first, oh, I don't know, 10, 15 pages, we get a pretty good picture of how extreme this is and how they've had to accommodate her. So already we know that this is a fragile victim. Um, but I was, excuse me, I've had a bad um, spring allergies. Uh, I was struck in rereading it how the author introduced right early on in those early pages the idea that there was all this construction going on in the area. When you read it when I read it the first time, it was just a yeah, yeah, yeah. It didn't seem that important, but she was already planting her clues. That was kind of fun to read it the second time for that reason. But we meet a lot of characters in those first 20 pages, which the author calls episode one. How that was the sort of the setup for the TV show. That's what the TV show was showing. Um, did did you like the way these were introduced, or did you find it helpful?
I loved it. So sorry, Sally.
No, I mean, that's why there are so many different genres and so many different authors because everybody gets something different. Um, yeah, the one of the hardest parts for me was the mother of the missing girl. I should have had tremendous sympathy for her, but I couldn't like her. She was
Yeah.
so rigid. And then,
Mhm.
she was so hard on her husband. And
Yeah.
I get that, the other girl set it up. What a little witch. Yeah, I mean, that character you had to really hate. Not one redeeming quality there. But she was so hard on her husband. She was so,
Yeah.
and she was like
We'll
bitter.
get to more about Beverly because she's a very interesting character.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing that did happen right away, and it's partly her demeanor, is that suspicion was thrown on both her and Robert. It's usually a parent type of stuff and so forth. And did you think that this was a preconceived notion of the police, or did you think their behavior merely reflected the stress that they were under?
Distress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
A-
I do.
And right away in the first few pages, we meet Elizabeth. And Elizabeth turns out to be critically important, and she seems almost like a throwaway character in the first time we meet her. What did you think of her in these early pages?
She's the babysitter, the
No, that was
She,
Lily.
she was the
Elizabeth was
coordinator for the
Oh, yes,
for
okay,
the
yeah.
sort of
for
like a
the
PR person
show.
almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was a very strange character, I thought.
Well, she was very professional and not ever answering the questions about her personal life. She didn't want to
Yeah,
bring her personal life in.
yeah.
So I kind of respected that. But yeah, you didn't realize how, I don't think I fully appreciated how until the very end when she was coordinating well, she solved the crime. I mean, with her, it was her investigation that came up with the final episode, right?
Yeah, she was the producer of the TV
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
And
So,
she was kind of a dark horse, really.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
I didn't have any problem with her because I saw her as being the professional there. I had more, well, I know you're going to talk more about Beverly, but I had more problems with her than Elizabeth.
Right. I think we've touched on some of these next questions I have. Um, And just to circle back a minute to the introduction, one of the important critiques of true crime podcasts and TV shows and so forth is that it re-traumatizes the victims. And certainly for Beverly, this was the case. And did you think her reactions were realistic? The throwing the cement block through Jenny's window and so forth? This is, the 20 years later Beverly.
I had a problem with her because wasn't she a psychiatrist herself or a
Hmm.
psychologist? I don't remember which one.
Psychiatrist. Hmm.
So the fact that nobody seemed to be calling her on the fact that her behavior was not appropriate and she really needed psychiatric help herself, I thought.
Well, it's the minister's children type thing, sometimes psychology professionals are some of the least insightful about their own situations of anybody. But yeah, she was a hard nut.
And I
It
also
just,
didn't really
it,
understand why she was targeting the daughter instead of, or was the daughter just available and the father's in jail? I didn't really get why she was targeting.
Right. Well, I think you're right. The father wasn't available to her, and she was convinced in her mind. I mean, you know how people get an idea that Jenny knew more than she was telling. And she was just, that was her story, and she was sticking to it. So,
the thing that shocked me was it. Oh, it didn't surprise me that she threw the brick through the window in that first scene. Okay, she's an overwrought mother, the whole thing. All right, but then later on, when we find out that she actually would go and talk to Jenny as she was growing up, and that she was kind to her, I thought, how do I reconcile those two behaviors? How do I reconcile the fact that she was
right.
kind to her at times and then comes and throws a brick through a window? I couldn't
I
get
The
think
brick,
that's the whole thing about the TV show.
Yes.
Sort of raised all these issues in her mind, and she's lost it. There's talking about these kind of programs re-traumatizing people.
Yeah.
yeah.
And she could deal with Jenny growing up because it was a child and she knew her and so forth. But then faced with all the memories of the loss of her daughter, it was just too much for her. But this is why, to me, this is an interesting book because it makes you really think about um, the uh, downstream effects of having these popular kinds of things. Let's see.
Well, I will agree that it was interesting. But I can't help it. The thing that not that that's not I'm not saying anything bad about the author of the book at the moment, but it's the idea of these people who watch these shows and then harass these people. It's like I can't even
Yeah,
begin to comprehend the
yeah,
person that thinks that they have any right whatsoever to insert themselves into the situation for any reason whatsoever. So
right.
yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's
I mean,
shocking.
people have had to move
Yes,
because are so stalked in their original environment. They have to move out of town and change their name, change their identities. It's
yeah.
just shocking. Yeah. Um, so I wanted to just say a few words about the ending. How did you feel about the ending? And what were its strong and weak points?
Well, it was satisfying in that this little girl that you didn't suspect her of the t total Nora, right? Was her name? You didn't expect I didn't suspect her of being involved to the degree that she was. I never suspected that she was involved in actually murdering the other little girl. I really never did until when we get,
Ellie, look behind you.
yeah, I
Look
see a
behind
tail.
you. Okay.
Yes. Uh-oh.
Okay.
I thought the ending was kind of contrived.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't like I wasn't comfortable with Nora throughout the book.
Right.
But the possibility of her, they kept saying that she was dead, but then there was the possibility she was alive. And then to have, the ending come about as it did. I mean, I thought it was a little contrived. I was okay. I mean, I thought the book was really, I enjoyed the book, but
I think the fact that the truth is revealed is satisfying. So that, in the end, for whatever you're feeling about these true crime shows and aficionados and whatnots, the fact that it got at the truth so that everybody then could face it and deal with it, that to me was very satisfying.
Hmm. Yeah, I had mixed feelings about it. Patty, do you want to weigh in on this before I just give my opinion?
Well, I liked the ending. It was you could you knew excuse me, you knew what was going to happen. And but I was glad it happened. I was glad that he was, you know, getting out and everything. But I always knew that Nora, I kept thinking about the girl in the bad seed.
Hmm.
Remember
Yeah,
that movie, The Bad Seed? I kept thinking about her. I kept picturing her like that little blonde girl. Yeah,
yeah. I I, I thought, yes, it was satisfying in that all the loose ends were tied up.
yeah.
But I thought shooting Nora was a dangerous thing to do. First of all, their only evidence for that was what Mandy said. And Mandy um, was a slender reed to lean your hopes on because Mandy had her own issues and problems and fragilities. And that, yes, it made all the sense to them, but it just seemed to me dangerous for them to shoot her. And yes, they got rid of her body cleverly and so forth. But then when the excavation of the bones was conducted, uh, Jenny told Beverly flat out, Nora is dead. Don't ask me why I know this. I can't tell you. So, and I thought that was dangerous. I mean, what's that old Irish saying? You can keep three people can keep a secret if two of them are dead. I mean, really, this sounded risky to me. I understand why they did it, and they all had a bone to pick with her, that's for sure. But um, she was going to do herself in if they had just let her go about her business. But um, anyway, so that's the beginning and the end. Now, this book has some very strong characters that, in other words, they're strongly written, even if though they weren't strong people. Like Mandy is strongly written and very convincingly written, but she's weak. Um, and what struck me reading through again is that we don't realize right away that Jenny is going to be the main character. What did you think of Jenny? Her conviction that she would bend history, her belief in second sight and so forth. By the end, do you think her beliefs were borne out or no?
I didn't think so. I just thought that my opinion, I didn't think that part even needed to be in the book. I mean, in that, I don't know. I didn't think that it needed, the book didn't need all that with the little ghost things and stuff. That could have been handled a different way.
Hmm.
You
I have my own problems.
know?
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
this second,
I thought it, but actually, this author has written about these slightly paranormal things that are
Oh,
an element of some of her other books. So this is not a
okay.
surprise that she would do this, but um,
but there were moments when she seemed to say, unless I got this wrong, there were moments when she actually thought her father was guilty. And I thought, well, what kind of second sight does she have that she didn't know for sure that he was absolutely 100% innocent?
Right.
So yeah, I questioned her second sight quite
Well,
a few times.
I think she was hoping she had the second sight because that ran in the that was a
Family.
familial thing. But I don't know that there was any point where she actually demonstrated
No.
that she had it. She was hoping
It was a
she
way
was,
of making her a fairly ordinary girl feel special.
yes.
And, you know, uh, teenage girls, of course, they're not teenagers yet, but they're going to be, go through so much and have so much self-doubt that it wasn't a terrible thing, I thought, but it wasn't going to, it was just an extra added thing. But what about those girls? What did you think of the four teenagers? Were they realistic to you?
I thought that was the best written element of the story of how like a teenage girl who is manipulative, how a kid who it doesn't even have to be a teenager necessarily, but a girl who is manipulative can, it's like they cut the weakest member out and then prey upon them and use them to their own end. And she was, I mean, Nora clearly all her life was an expert at doing that. uh,
Yeah.
and I thought that was really very realistic in my memory of Mean Girls.
Yeah.
I thought it was too. I thought looking at from the other side, Mandy definitely needed more attention. So her linking with Nora seemed, you know, Tia and Jenny were sort of go-getters, but Mandy never quite fit with them, although, that was her sister. And
And it made you feel an ache for her. I mean, I found her truly I felt such sympathy for her because uh, she just played right into it, and you just kept wanting to say to her, "No, don't believe her, don't believe her." But yeah, I thought the relationship of the girls was really well done.
yeah,
Yeah, and their dialogue was great because a lot of times when I'm reading kids' dialogue or early teenagers' dialogue, this age, it just sounds so fake to me. But these girls sounded really, and the things they did, and polishing their nails, and yeah, I thought that was really done well. And the author identified and played on the insecurities that kids that age have. I mean, all of them do. Let's talk about the setting a little bit. Lori Roy is a Florida resident, and Big Cypress Swamp was a natural setting for this. And here's what she says about setting. She says, setting is generally the first thing that comes to mind when starting a book. I love a gritty setting that will be an obstacle to the characters, that's overwhelming. When you're in a swamp, it overwhelms every sense. It triggers fear, the smell, the sight. Every sound is magnified because it might be an alligator. So I'm wondering, what did you think of the old man? What purpose does he serve in the story?
I thought it was kind of local color. I mean, because there there are alligators that wander around on golf courses. So,
Hmm.
but there are also ones that eat your little dogs if you get too close to the canal. So,
Yeah,
I thought it was a nice touch. It was kind of like the things that she was hanging in the trees, the paper
the ghost
flowers,
orchids. Yeah.
I thought
Hmm.
it was a nice touch.
Well, I thought that the old man was served a very useful purpose aside from his big scene when the girls are teasing him,
Oh
in
yeah.
that he was kind of a source of ongoing tension in the story. The girls could be out playing, but wait, there's the old man, and that just highlighted their vulnerability. And of course, he's the one that provided the final proof to the girls that Nora was an evil person in that episode with Mandy. But by
Yeah, and he
contrast, hmm,
and he didn't really hurt anything. I mean, he was just
he
he wasn't.
could. There
Yeah,
was
it just
potential. Yeah.
it just yeah, the potential, but just the way that the young kids reacted to him, I thought was, that was characteristic too of that age.
Mhm. By contrast, as Peg already pointed out, there were the ghost orchids. And I don't know if you remember the Susan Orlean 1998 book called The Orchid Thief. It was about ghost orchids also in Florida. And it was put into a movie with Nicolas Cage, Tilda Swinton, Meryl Streep, and Chris Cooper called Adaptation. Anyway, the movie was totally different from Susan Orlean's book. But in she, what Lori Roy says about that, in the swamp, you have very rugged, harsh images butted up against something beautiful. I enjoy that beauty that you're searching for in this whole huge swamp. I've never seen a ghost orchid in person. They are so rare. It's an essential swamp image. There's something metaphysical about it. I wanted to put something beautiful in the midst of this scary setting. So that's why the ghost orchid is there, and that's why she built that whole aspect of the story and seeking out the ghost orchids and so forth, because she was trying to convey sort of two sides of the swamp. Um, all right, now let's talk a little bit about some of the characters. What did you think of the character of Beverly? I mean, um, Sally's already said she was hard to like, and I agree with that. But why did the author make that choice? The author didn't have to. The author could have made her totally sympathetic. What was the point of making her um, so prickly?
I think part of it had to do with, again, casting the blame on Jenny's father.
You
She
know
she
what?
needed a
What about
target.
her boyfriend? We didn't talk about Jenny's boyfriend.
Arlen.
Yes, yes.
Arlen.
That was kind of a um twist, wasn't it, toward the end?
Right. That
Yeah,
Well,
he,
yeah, pretty much every section and every chapter ended with a new understanding of what had gone on.
yeah,
It was full of twists at the end.
yes.
Um, well, I didn't have a question about Ireland specifically. What did you want to say about him?
Well, am surprised that she took him back, like that she forgave him for being with Nora as she was somebody else. That surprised me
Hmm.
because with me, it's like if you have such a big lie to begin with, how do you know he's not going to tell another lie further down the road? You know?
yeah, I was shocked when we find out that he had been involved with Nora, and it's
Yeah,
like all that time, and he never revealed that, and I found that to be disturbing. Yeah,
yeah,
and but also it at the moment that it was revealed, I thought, well, is he working with Nora on this? And of course, we
yeah.
eventually find out that he was not. But yeah, I if I was
Jenny.
Jenny, I would have really had a very hard time getting past the fact that I didn't know that.
But wasn't Arlen involved with her before he knew that she was part of
Yes.
that town? So she was under another name then. So
Right.
I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think he knew that this woman was involved
With
with
Jenny
anything in
and
town. The what?
Tia. With Jenny and Tia
Yeah,
and
yeah,
them.
I don't think he knew anything about that. And just to go back to Beverly for a minute, I didn't understand how she was still throwing stuff at Jenny 20 years after the fact. I mean, that to me was
That's the whole
disturbing.
re-traumatizing thing.
Yeah.
You have to buy that argument in order to understand her behavior 20 years later.
I guess I didn't think of it in terms of the TV show. I thought of it just, this woman's been holding this grudge for 20 years or
And
targeting.
the thing is too, it seemed that she was doing things like this quite a lot because the husband was always coming afterwards, cleaning up after her,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which, and it seemed like that was going on before the show was on the air.
Yeah, that's the impression I had.
No?
I didn't. I thought that the explanation was the show had triggered all this, but maybe you're right. Um,
Well, it didn't really explain because it goes from, sort of the opening pages to launching into the episode.
yeah,
So you don't really know exactly what went on in
yeah,
those 20 years. I just assumed.
yeah. Except Sally already pointed out that she was nice to Jenny when Jenny was younger. So
Yeah.
Yes, when
uh,
she was young.
she she numerous times says that not knowing is worse than the worst you could know,
Right.
and that we have to assume that the author is telling us that for a good reason, and that it's the not knowing has just sort of crashed over her head again. And she's, and the fact that everybody thinks that there's going to be a big reveal. Well, that would be good in a way, but not good because you don't know what it's going to be. So it was a very, I think the television show created a tremendous amount of stress for
Mhm.
everybody.
I think that she was harboring that inside of her for a long, long time. Plus, she had no closure because she couldn't bury her daughter. And I think all that went in, and she just exploded.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
I
But
kind of like, oh, go ahead.
I can't imagine anything more horrible than what actually did happen. I can't imagine imagining anything worse than the way that little girl died. And that Nora just did nothing to help her. Uh, that scene, I was just torn up reading that and thinking of this little girl who had been so protected and so cared for to be in that situation and no help in sight and this other girl who apparently did the same thing to everybody she touched in her life. um yeah, but yeah, I can't, I don't know that knowing what happened would have made me feel any better than not knowing, but that's me.
I think is the closure idea. It was
Yeah.
the door was always open. Was Franny going to reappear some magical way? But you're right. The manner of her death was the total antithesis of the way that she was treated on a day-to-day basis. You know, the
Yeah,
dirge and the
I
yeah.
think she wanted to know where her daughter was. I mean, the issue of how she died was not good, but um, I think she needed for closure. I think she needed to know where she was.
Yeah.
Going back to the ending, Vicky, you brought that up before, and I kind of had forgotten pieces of that since I completed reading this a couple of weeks ago. But the idea that the father did not go to prison for abducting that girl, but went to prison because Nora locked herself in the closet, pretending that he and swearing that he had done it. that to me was really mind-boggling that he went to prison for so many years for something like that, that it was just her word against his.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well,
there was evidence. She planted the whole thing, but it just it that to me was just like what so many lives ruined because of this little girl.
yeah, yeah. Well, you can see why they wanted to shoot her, but
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't feel too bad about that. I have to admit.
Henry and Doreen Baskin, they were the next door neighbors of Delia in her Naples house. And he was the sheriff who comes by occasionally to check on Jenny. They seem like such minor characters. What do you think? What did you think their purpose in this story was, or do you even remember them?
I forgot about him.
Yeah, I don't remember them at all.
Hmm.
I think it was good for her to have um, support, or it showed that she had some support other than just Arlen. She wasn't just totally on her own.
It's true.
He was supportive of her.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, and what about Nora's mother Lily's supposed affair, which prompted them to move to the new neighborhood where Tia and Mandy and Jenny were living? Did you believe Nora about that affair? And she's always getting swearing people to secrecy, which is, usually a bad sign. Uh,
Yeah.
Nora said that she and her dad, Levi, knew whom the affair was with. But if that can't be the truth, because um, why did they move to that neighborhood then if they knew that it was Paul? So that's just another lie that she told, I guess. But
Well, at what point did they start having the affair, though? Was it after they'd moved? Or like,
yeah, that
why did,
that was never made clear.
yeah, I can't understand why they moved.
Uh, or this was a second affair. She had an affair, they moved, and then
Maybe,
she
oh,
started up with
yeah.
Paul. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I could buy that.
Lily was weak.
Yeah.
Lily was
Well,
a weak character.
she had no control over Nora, that's for sure.
Oh my God. Yeah, no,
No.
no.
But she knew Paul and Jenny's mother years ago, so she had a long-term relationship with him, and Jenny was always hoping she would find out from Lily some more details about her mother
Right.
because she knew so little. Um, how does the remoteness and isolation of Jenny and her dad's house at the edge of the swamp enable some of the action? I mean, Lori Roy did not put them in downtown Naples. She didn't put them a lot of places she could have put them. She put them right next to the swamp.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, there's so much about, at first when these kids want to keep going to the swamp, she wants to just keep going to the swamp. And I keep thinking, I can't imagine anything I'd want less, even as
Yeah.
a little girl, to go to the swamp. Uh, but she had this whole initiation for her 11th birthday that was part of it, and then this idea that she was going to find the girl who was missing, and which in the end she had a role in finding her, so she did do that. But the swamp is and again you've got the alligator, who has that ominous presence that's there, and yet he never harms them. And really, that was another one of those reasons. I could just imagine being like an 11-year-old girl. I would have just slapped the crap out of Nora for throwing that rock, right? I mean, come on. She was as wicked as she could possibly be. And the fact that after an episode like that, that Mandy still was too weak to realize what this girl was and how horrible she was. But you know that I understood it, but it was very sad that she was under her spell, sort of. But again, the yeah, the the swamp was kind of like, that there's this danger lurking always, right?
Mhm.
Everywhere.
Well, I think she had good memories. Didn't she go there didn't they go there
Yeah.
every summer?
Yeah.
Oh,
And so,
yeah.
I mean, I could understand that because we had an old creek behind us and exploring, in that, sort of area, I think could have been fun for a kid. Her grandmother was there. Her
Mhm.
Yeah.
father took them fish. So she had really good memories, and it was a
But
fun
you have to
place.
be
I mean,
careful.
if I
Hmm.
wouldn't want to live by one now, but I mean, I could understand how, you could become attached to it. You could have good memories as a kid.
Right. Just the freedom of summer anywhere
Right.
that you associate with that is a good memory.
And you knew to stay away from the old alligator,
Yeah.
so it's the
Yeah.
man. So
The old man. Well, I think also that it was isolated like that allowed the threats to Jenny in uh, the more current story, the 22 years later story, be more scary because is out there pretty much by herself, and it'll take. Arlen is good at coming right away, but she's got the weird things happening with her music. She's got the prowlers. She's got the security camera going off, and we find out what all that was about later. But at the time, you would feel pretty isolated. It's not like living in suburbia or an apartment building where somebody's right across the hall.
yeah,
Excuse me. After Jenny is an adult, Nora has disappeared from her life, but she's only gone but not forgotten. There, the cop who investigates Jenny's first prowler provides some foreshadowing for the story. And he brings up Nora when he asks, "Is there anyone new in your life?" And she starts thinking about that Tanya, and she's close, but she's no cigar yet. She's right next to the real Nora. And I thought that the author's handling of little clues like that was pretty well done. Um, and let's see, there's some symbols that have SYMBOLS, not CYMBOLS, that help move. It's not a musical. Uh, that help move the plot along and tie the threads together. And one is the ghost orchids. That's from beginning to end. That keeps coming back, and it kind of pulls a story together. I mean, you're not if an author does it well, you're not really aware of it, but it is helpful. And also this whole business about a key. Uh, Mr. Farrell lets Jenny know that Delia is looking for a key, and she thinks it's a different key than the one he's looking for. And Mandy gets tied up with the issue of the key, and the sheriff friend gets tied up with the key. So um, the key was the key. So those are the two main symbols.
Yeah.
Unless we want to think of the old man as being kind of a symbol of the danger of the swamp and serving, more purpose than just his body himself. Um, okay, I went over all the different changes in the plot. Oh my gosh. Um, Nora, when she's in the hospital, asks Mandy to find a key that she dropped. and she lies about what the key is. She tells Mandy that it's the key to her house, and she doesn't want them to find it there. But Mandy never looks for it, fortunately. And oh, hold on a sec. I don't know. Can't talk now. Bye. Our daughter went up to Maine to be with a friend who's running for governor. Uh,
Wow. Was their primary yesterday?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he's lad the whole time. He's an MD-JD, and they worked together. And he got himself an officiant license. So when my daughter got married, both the first time and the second time, he was her officiant. So I said, I hope you do a better job this second time. But he's a wonderful man. He's a public health person. He was working for the CDC under the last crazy woman they had, and he went back to Maine. He was head of um, public health for Maine, and he went back to Maine, and now he's running for Senate. But he has more votes than anyone else in the primary yesterday, but they have ranked choice voting, and nobody has gotten 50%. They had a lot of candidates, so nobody got 50%. So
Right.
now they're going to have to go through the ranked choice voting thing, and it may be not possible for him to win.
Well,
Well, anyway, that's so she's calling about that.
that's politics.
When do you leave for your trip, Vicki?
Uh,
You're going to Norway?
yes, we're going
Yes.
on the 23rd, and I
Oh,
should be going out every day and walking so that I build up a little stamina because this is where I spend my days sitting in this chair. And I haven't, first of all, it was getting down to 17 degrees. Now
Oh,
it's to 103 today. So, no.
wow.
But um, when when Jenny finally has her 11th birthday, which is only 1 week after the start of the story, but it's on page 198. You know, she's been building up to her 11th birthday, all for 2/3 of the book. And it's only 1 week later in 2000 time, not 2022 time. Um, Delia rushes her into the house at some point. And Delia's looking out into the swamp, and she rushes Jenny into the house and says, "You can't stay out here. You've got to go inside. I don't, your Margaret Scott isn't coming, blah, 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 blah." We never find out what Delia thought she saw in the woods that night or in the swamp. Did people have thoughts about that?
you kind of forget about it, but
Yeah.
the only thing I guess that I felt at the time was that Delia had second sight and knew that danger lay ahead.
Yeah, I
So,
think Delia does.
Mhm.
Mhm.
so that's that. Yeah, but she never does explain it, does she?
No.
No, no.
But then she tells Jenny, don't forget about it all, don't do any of what she had planned to do. So yeah, she obviously saw what,
Something scary.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that the writing itself of this book was really good. It was very clear and so forth. And Peg has heard me read this passage on another occasion, but I thought the way that Laurie Roy described the twins, how they look exactly alike, but they're totally different, was so good. She says uh, she talks about how they're the same, but then she says, but that's where the sameness ends. Mandy's clothes are smooth and sharp. Tia's are rumpled and faded. Mandy's hair is always pulled back. Tia's is a mess of tangles. In short, Mandy is pressed, Tia is line dried.
Yeah, I like that line. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was so good. Not only was it good and innovative images and clear, it was written in a way that Jenny herself at age 10 could have explained it. You could make a really highfalutin, sophisticated description of the difference between the two, but then that wouldn't be Jenny. And so I just thought that was really strong.
Yeah.
Um, a couple years back, and Patty, I don't know if you were part of Sally's group then when we talked about my book, Architect of Courage. I may have said that I actually didn't know the book was about prejudice until after I had finished it and I started reflecting back on it. And it was about prejudice and the dangers of rushing to conclusions about people. And um, Lori Roy, oddly or similarly, says she often doesn't know what a book is really about until she's done writing it. She says this one that we just read or reread is about empathy and the importance of the far-reaching view of the world that empathy allows. Well, I think you can say definitely Nora did not have it. Um,
So, in your book, did you come to the realization, or was that something that somebody else pointed out to you after they had read it? Because I
no,
think sometimes we don't know what we're writing.
oh, that's so often the case. Um, no, I was writing to potential publishers. You've got to finish your book before you can ask someone to publish it. And I was writing to them and I was trying to come up with ways to describe it. And I finally realized, like, the light dawned that that's what the book was about. And so n- nobody gets that but me, I think. But well,
Well,
everybody encountered those things.
yeah.
Now, as a person who spends a lot of time thinking about crime and writing about it, I thought I had a little trouble with the idea that these TV producers were going around interviewing everybody and talking to everybody. And what if they do come up with something new? Well, what's their responsibility to the justice system? And Lori Roy dealt with that in two places. Elizabeth and the show producers share their findings with the police and let them choose what they're going to share with the various parties, either the pharaohs or anybody else. But in writing, Lori Roy interviewed a lot of show and podcast producers to find out how they handle information that the police don't have. They aren't obligated to share it with them, but in her book, she thought the more ethical thing to do was for the producers to share that information so the police could act on it if they wanted to.
I thought it was interesting how everybody was waiting with bated breath for the last episode. And I'm thinking, if they know what's happened in the last episode, why isn't that person in jail?
Oh,
You know? I mean, if it was really who had taken Francie in the first place, that to me would have been, you
Well, the
know,
police, if you'll recall, didn't know where Nora was. She had gone off the radar. Only she was living under this assumed name.
right.
Hmm. I had a little trouble also figuring out what Jenny's business was, if it was cleaning closets and so forth, and I wonder if she has a card. We,
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's she was an organizer for
yeah,
people. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. I have a little bit of a problem. Oh, shh, shh, shh. I have a little bit of a problem with the idea that there was no recognition of her, even though she was in close contact with that woman. You know, I
You mean that Jenny didn't recognize Nora?
Jenny didn't, yeah, at no time had like thought she looked familiar, or I don't know. I don't know. I
Well,
always expect that you would recognize somebody, but I guess maybe if enough years pass and somebody's,
20, 22 years or something.
yeah, I guess you might not recognize somebody, but that always, I thought, I don't know. Is that really possible?
Well, if you remember, until time, Jenny always dealt with the assistants of Eva or whatever. I think her name is Eva, until Tanya was fired. And then she met Eva for one of the few times she actually met her.
Mm. Oh, right, right, right. Okay. Yeah, I guess you didn't spend that much
It's
time
not
with
like
her.
they were working side by
Yeah.
side. I think then you would see the mannerisms and
Yeah.
everything.
And then and Nora said that she didn't realize who Jenny was until she saw her last name.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess it is
Well, of
possible.
course, you can't
Yeah.
trust anything Nora says, so.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Ah, no, you cannot. No, you cannot. Oof, gosh.
Well, I was glad for the opportunity to read this book again, and now I want to read more of Lori Roy's stuff. She won a Edgar Award, from the Mystery Writers of America for her first book. She won the new author, debut author Edgar, and then she won one for one of her
Best
subsequent
novel.
books, and it's one of only three times that the same person has won both those awards, and she's the only woman to have ever won both. So, yeah,
Very
Very
interesting.
good.
Well, Vicky, I want to thank you for moderating and for
it
also
was fun.
sharing your book with us last time. And tomorrow, or maybe even, yeah, tomorrow morning, I will send out next quarter's Mystery Book Club. I'm going to be moderating, and I decided to go total beach reads. Okay. We're going to read The Last Beach Town by Deb Richardson Moore. And Deb is going to join us for that first meeting in July. And then we're going to read Susan M. Boyer's Big Trouble on Sullivan's Island. And we're going to conclude with Linda Lovely's Beyond the Gates. All three of these books are set in South Carolina, at the beach in South Carolina. And I've read all three of them in the past and loved all three of them. The mysteries are good, the stories are good, the characters are good. And Beyond the Gates, Linda Lovely came up with the idea of creating this series. This is not the first book in that series about a homeowners association.
Oh,
And she thought,
what can go wrong?
exactly how many reasons can you have for people wanting to kill each other when you're in a homeowners association? There were
Right, right,
endless
right, right.
possibilities. But the main character is a woman who is the sleuth is a former Coast Guard uh, uh, person who now acts as security for these communities.
Mhm.
And this is my favorite of the books in that series because there's a scene in it that is just magnificent at the end, and I can't wait for everybody to read it and enjoy it. So it definitely, I decided we needed some lighthearted fun for the summertime to read, and these are definite beach reads. And Deb Richardson Moore's book, I had actually bought it when I attended her book signing, and I had it and I put it on the shelf here. And because I read mostly on Kindle now, I looked one day and I thought, did I read this book? And I didn't. And I picked it up, and oh my God, you do not know who done it until the very end. So it's really I think everybody will enjoy these books because they're not uh, throwaways. They're definitely very well written, very good mysteries that I think all mystery writers can enjoy. So
Great.
that's what's coming up, ladies. Thanks for
Good.
joining us today.
Mhm.
Have a good rest of the month and
Thank you.
hopefully see you in July.
Thanks for the opportunity to do this. Thanks.
Oh,
What
our pleasure.
what's the
Thank
date
you.
in what's the date in July? Because I don't have a calendar in front of me. 'Cause I'm thinking
Hold on.
that's going to run into probably
Some
the
convention.
convention.
Hold on. Oh my goodness.
But you'll be taping anyway, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Okay. Oh my gosh. You know, here it is.
you don't have to. You're sending it out. Don't worry about
It's
it.
July 8th, August 12th, and September 9th. July 8th.
Yeah.
Oh, July 8th isn't the meeting yet. It's right before
It's,
the meeting.
yeah. This book is really good. The Last
And
Beach Path.
unless you're going to the workshop, which would be the 9th, you might fly out on the
I'm
8th.
going to the workshop, but it's going to be I'm traveling, so I'm not going to try
Hmm.
to do that. But I'll listen to it when you record, if you're recording.
Much appreciated. Okay, ladies. Great meeting. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Have
This
a
is a
great
good
trip.
Bye.
discussion.
Good to
Have
see
a
you
great
Okay.
again.
trip. See you. Take
Happy,
Take care.
care.
happy
Summer.